If the Alabama Crimson Tide land Elijah Haven, as expected, it's going to put pressure on other SEC programs.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Podcast for another live edition. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the nation's number one podcasting network, Locked On. There is a growing consensus that Elijah Haven is going to select the Alabama Crimson Tide, and it's probably going to put some pressure on some of the other schools around the nation. Here's why I say that. Number one, if you're talking about just numbers, and I'll throw them up on the screen here in a second. When you dive into who Elijah Haven is, not just his size and everything, I'm talking about stats. He threw 62 touchdowns last year at the Dunham School in Baton Rouge. He's one of those guys that probably doesn't have a problem getting into the next level and feeling like, hey, I can play here, I can play early. And Alabama's room is pretty loaded. He's expected to commit on the 25th, choosing between Alabama and Georgia. By all accounts, it's going to be Alabama, barring something unforeseen. But this is recruiting. Anything is possible. That's why I don't think there's any doubt that you have to just take that into consideration. And he could also change his mind later, certainly his prerogative. But why would he apply pressure to other schools? Well, let's think about this. College football, as I noted on yesterday's pod when I ran down a bunch of recruiting news about quarterbacks, is perception-based. That's not always a good thing, but it is perception-based. Hey, how are we doing against our rival, and insert school names involved? Auburn and Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Auburn, whatever it may be. There's a perception that goes along with this, and no position holds more cachet than quarterback. 24/7 has Elijah, I believe, number one overall in the nation as a player. And once he comes off the board, that kind of really gets things going. Champ Mond's probably going to pick Notre Dame pretty soon. I think we all know that. We talked about that yesterday. That'd be two more big quarterbacks, and there's going to be very few left. To that end, before I'm going to put this up twice. I'm going to put it up now and a little bit after I go into Elijah. A quick edit on a failure on my part. Trent Seaborn is already committed to Bama as well. I got caught up in Elijah Haven's decision coming up on the 25th. Heck, I've seen Seaborn play live multiple times. He's a really good prospect, and he also plays at Thompson, obviously a very good football program just outside of Birmingham. So on the list that's getting ready to come up, Trent Seaborn is committed to Bama, and they plan on taking Elijah Haven as well. This is a very unique scenario. Not a lot of teams take two quarterbacks anymore, but again, my mistake. Trent Seaborn is committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide. But here are the quarterbacks in the SEC that are committed, and then at the bottom, I've got the ones as of, again, this is the 21st of April, 2026, the schools that don't have one. Peyton Houston, he's a four-star from in-state. He's going to LSU. Kentucky gets Jake Nahrot out of the Chicago area. Great pickup for Kentucky. That's a four-star. Texas A&M dips into the Peach State to get Lowndes County quarterback Jayce Johnson. Big arm, long athletic kid. Ole Miss gets Keegan Croucher. He's at the Baylor School in Tennessee. He's a four-star. Florida stays in state, gets Davin Davidson from state champion Cardinal Mooney over in Sarasota. He's a four-star. And then there are five more guys already pledged too. Jamison Roberts, I think, probably should be a four-star, but that's another story. He's at Saraland in Alabama. He's a guy that had a ton of production last year. He's got another year left. He's a three-star. Tennessee has Derek Baker at Milton, another great program. He's a three-star. South Carolina, I put Meyer. I mispronounced or misspelled his name. It's Jerry Meyer. Waxahachie, Texas, three-star. Missouri, Braylon Warren, Westside High School in Omaha, Nebraska. He's committed to the Missouri Tigers. He's a three-star. And Texas stays really close. Ty Knutson from Smithson Valley, that's just outside of Austin, is committed. He's a three-star. So 10 guys committed to the SEC as quarterbacks, but the six that don't, Bama, Georgia, Auburn, Vandy, Arkansas, Mississippi State. Either Bama or Georgia, again, it sounds like Bama, is going to get Elijah Haven. Does that work out for him? I mean, Georgia probably they're probably going to get Colton Nussmeier. So, again, that would just leave 4. Auburn, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Mississippi State. Those are 4 programs right now. This, again, perception, Auburn's not been very good here lately. They just haven't. If they don't get Will Mencl and their 2 of their biggest rivals, Bama and Georgia, end up with quarterbacks here pretty quick, that's going to add pressure onto Alex Golish. Vanderbilt, they just got a 5-star quarterback. They're in a tough spot. Not many kids are going to want to go there. I'm curious to see who they end up with. Arkansas is rebooting its program. No idea where that's going. Kamario Taylor ended up taking over last year from Mississippi State, so they got a young quarterback. That probably doesn't help them, and they haven't been very good. So, again, looking at this list, that's 6 teams, but a couple of them are a little different. Bama and Georgia, they'll be fine. How does it go for those schools that aren't on that high end, that aren't perceived to be dominant? That's something we'll come back to here in a little bit. But here is why I like Elijah Haven so much. He's at the Dunham School again in Baton Rouge. 6'5", he's 215, 220, something like that. I saw him last summer at Future 50 down in IMG's stadium, throwing it around, really natural throwing motion. He looks the part. Only thing that I question with him, the way he's built, like just how big will he get? I think 230 is conservative. Could he get bigger? Maybe. Is that good? Is that bad? That's up to the strength staff wherever he goes to school. But he's a good athlete. He had 62 touchdowns last year, but he can run too. He's not just a pocket guy. He's athletic. I believe that that's a really important thing, and that's why I put it number 2. So he's going to have the frame and athleticism to do all the things that you want, regardless of style of play. That's really important. Number 3, his throwing motion is about as consistent as it's going to get. He's not a young man that is going to have a problem throwing the football, regardless of the situation. It comes natural to him. It is muscle memory, really consistent throwing motion for Elijah Haven. Number 4, just being around him, one of the first things that I noted, he's cerebral with everything he does, not just football. He will think it through. He uses deductive logic, not inductive logic, and he processes well. Just from watching him at Future 50, when he went through a drill, he would listen to what they wanted. He would execute. If they asked him to adjust, he would do that. He didn't worry about what was going on around him. He processes the information. He focuses and gets it done. And finally, just his demeanor. If he had a bad pass, and they all did, even, elite kids are going to have bad passes, never too high or low. I think that's important for a quarterback to discuss. Elijah Haven is a young man that has the ability to spin it. But if there's a pick, if there's a sack, if somebody drops a pass, he's not somebody that's going to act out of character. The other players on the field, yours and the other team, as well as coaching staffs, are going to notice what quarterbacks do. Elijah Haven has the right mentality. Now, I'm sure many are wondering, where do I rank him? He's about the hardest kid to rank in this class because he plays really bad competition. To that end, I don't think it matters that much. He's such an athletic kid that it's going to be hard for him not to be successful in some capacity in college, to go with the way his mindset is. But again, he had 62 touchdown passes last year. I think Dunham School's 1 or 2A, and they just crushed people. But he was the reason. If you're going to play lower level competition, you better do a great job. Elijah Haven did. So I think that he's going to be a guy that does really well. And here are part of the stats that he had last. This isn't even the full season, but it just kind of puts it in perspective on some of their games. Like, his numbers were consistently amazing. He went out there and just threw the football all over the place, high completion percentage for the most part. The game against Capital, my goodness, they won 62-6, and he hit 85.7% of his passes. That's pretty impressive. But again, you're not going to be perfect. I understand that, but he did such a good job consistently last year. It's probably why 24/7 ranked him so high. I think that it is very noteworthy with all his accolades, all his proven production. We've known about him for a long time as scouts in this industry. I'm going to go ahead and assume he's going to Bama because that's where everybody's thought he's been going forever. And Georgia's really going after Colton Nussmeier. Yes, it's ironic. The Nussmeier brother, the one that just left LSU. If he goes there, and Georgia gets Nussmeier too, that's a ton of pressure on Auburn, just as one perspective. LSU's already got their commitment. Peyton Houston, a young man, here's on this screen. He's over at Evangel Christian. He's the first guy on this list. Auburn's going to be somebody that probably needs to bump it up. They've got to find a way to either get Will Mencl, flip somebody, or do something. Perception is reality. So when we come back, we're going to talk more about the commitments. I'm going to break down who they are, their styles of play, and we'll get back into the Auburn situation and just kind of recruiting in general in the SEC, how quarterback changes things. And then, of course, we'll get into the chat. And I have a bunch of questions for those of you that like the questions for the chat based on quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference, both on the roster now and with recruiting. That is next right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet $5, and if it hits, you can gain $250 in bonus bets, just like that. That is a $250 opportunity for you. The app also makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, you can get all your information there. You don't have to go to other apps to figure it out. All your info to figure out the trends, the best matchups across the board. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. All right. Now, don't forget about the Everydayer Club down in the description below. Check it out. For $5 a month, you can get all of your ads taken away on the podcast, on the go, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Podbean, anything you listening to get the Portal Podcast. Check it out, the Everydayer Club, right there down below in the description. There is a link. Let's talk about the kids that are committed. These are my own quick hitters on the evaluations, the players that are committed to the SEC programs. And with Elijah, again, I already went through him, so I'll spare you that. But this is the list, one by one. Peyton Houston, committed to LSU. Evangel Christian is a long-time program that has been very successful. It is Shreveport, Louisiana, definitely very good. I would imagine that he's going to be a great fit for what Lane Kiffin does because Peyton Houston is mobile. He's very strong. He's built kind of like a running back in some ways. Like he's really put together. If he had just added a little weight in his legs, got a little bigger, he'd put him back here at running back. But Peyton Houston has a huge arm. He's just not the tallest guy. He's about 5'10", 5'11", and he's got to be able to feather the ball in a little better. But any deep shot, any seam pass, any throw across the field, deep out, any of that, Peyton Houston is your guy. He's got all the talent in the world. I'm curious to see what Lane Kiffin does, but it really is a great fit. Kentucky, Jake Nahrot, out of John Hersey High School in the greater Chicagoland area, four-star quarterback. He had offers from schools around the country. Oregon offered him, etc., and he decided to go with Kentucky. Now, keep in mind, that's a coaching staff with Will Stein now running the ship. Will was at Oregon as the OC. He's had success with quarterbacks. Jake's going to have a chance to play pretty early, I would imagine. By his sophomore year, he'll probably be in the lineup, is my guess. He's got all the tools. 41 touchdowns and 2 interceptions last year. He could move, but he is more of a pocket guy that likes to kind of like Dante Moore, really. It's a really good comparison in style. Dante can run if you need him to, but he's better when he's throwing from the pocket or just moving the pocket to extend a play. Jake kind of fits that as well. Texas A&M, Jayce Johnson from Lowndes County, Valdosta, Georgia. That's a young man that A&M got pretty early. I saw Jayce last year at the Rivals Atlanta camp. He was awesome. I believe they gave him the MVP. He's one of those guys that still needs to fill out, but he's 6'5". He fits the profile. In a lot of ways, he's a lot like Elijah Haven. He looks the part in terms of just a long, athletic kid. He's just not as thick as Elijah yet. We'll see how he does at A&M, but he's playing against really top competition in South Georgia, and he's at a program where it matters. Like their stadium is loaded with fans. It's a big deal for them to have a high school football game. I think that will help him as he transitions to the Southeastern Conference. Keegan Croucher is at the Baylor School. It's a boarding school in Chattanooga. He's going to be going to Ole Miss. This is a player that is much like a Jayce Johnson that's going to be used to playing some pretty good competition. it means something to play at that program. Traditional pocket passer that can extend plays, but more of a pocket guy. I think he'll fit in very nicely at Ole Miss. Florida, Davin Davidson. He can definitely run and throw. 6'5", 6'6", quarterback at a Cardinal Mooney who won state championship last year. Davin Davidson kind of came out of nowhere and exploded this past season, and then he continued through the offseason. He ends up with the Gators. I think he's their quarterback of the future, and that's a great pickup for John Sumrall and Florida. Oklahoma, Jamison Roberts. I noted earlier that I think he's a little bit underrated. He's at Saraland High School, just on the north edge of Mobile, Alabama, not that far from me. And to be honest, the little bit that I've seen him in a couple of tournaments. He's really consistent. He knows where he wants to go with the ball. He processes well. I don't know if you're Oklahoma, if you're real thrilled that he's ranked at 3-star, because, again, I think he's better than that. He had roughly 5,000 yards of total offense last year, and I forget what the touchdown total was, but he can run and throw. Definitely an RPO guy. I think his upside is very, very high. Derek Baker is yoked. He's 225, 230 pounds. Just absolutely a bull in a china shop. That kid is so massive. He's going to be headed to play for the Vols. He's at Milton, Georgia, one of the best programs in the South on the north edge of Atlanta. He's had days where I've seen him where he was really good and other days he wasn't. He's hard for me to kind of figure out, but the physical tools are there, and he's played in, again, another program that's elite, and that's going to help him in his transition to play in P4 football. South Carolina, again, I misspelled this. Jerry Meyer. I don't know how I got Miter in there. Jerry is at Waxahachie. That's a program on the Dallas side of the state up north. Really good program traditionally. I don't know a ton about him, but the fact that South Carolina dipped into Dallas, first off, good for them. They're struggling right now in recruiting a little bit. To get your quarterback early, that's a big deal for them. Missouri, Braylon Warren, a kid out of Omaha. That's a city that's probably a little bit underrated nationally, honestly. Missouri goes in there and they take one away. He had a bunch of offers. I'm kind of curious to study him a little bit more, but Missouri's a program that's done pretty good in Nebraska here lately. They've actually kind of expanded their board into that state. Good for them. And finally, Texas, Ty Newton out of Smithson Valley. That's just on the edge of Austin, right outside where the University of Texas is located. That's another kid that has the ability to spin it. He's probably going to have some time to develop after the quarterbacks that Texas has taken the last few years. But he's a local kid, so I like that as well. Again, the only guys or the only schools that haven't got commitments yet at the quarterback position in the SEC as of April 21st, Bama, Georgia, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and Mississippi State. That's going to conclude part one here. Just going to go ahead and jump into part two. We got all kinds of questions and stuff to kind of get started. As mentioned a few minutes ago, noon Eastern time, right here, each and every day. It's something I like doing. We get into the questions, have some fun with beginning of the show, this news that's going on. But every day it's going to be noon Eastern until otherwise noticed. Maybe I will change it, but that is not the plan here anytime soon. Everybody have a good one. This has been the Portal Podcast.